of our global community. I'm Daniel Ankrah, anchoring tonight's edition of Lntv News Live. Top stories we're following tonight. The Director General of the Liberia Agriculture Commodity Regulatory Authority says he welcomes the idea of Liberia seeking food aid from China, calls for sustainable actions towards food security locally. War of words ensue between Youth and Sports Minister Zoga Wilson and Monserrate County District 6 lawmaker Samuel Enders over the control of a right-to-play Hope Center in Painesville. Peace and civil society activists continue their calls for the establishment of a war and economic crimes court in Liberia, away from whom at least 8 people have been killed in an explosion at a munitions factory in South Africa, a spokesman said for the Fire and Rescue Service. These developments plus much more coming up tonight. I'm Daniel. Keep watching. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Lntv News Live. The Director General of the Liberia Agriculture, Commodity and Regulatory Authority, Dr. John Flomo, says he welcomes the idea of Liberia seeking food aid from China. According to Dr. John Flomo, even though this is a clever idea, the country also needs to focus on other sustainable ways of enhancing food security. He made the disclosure today to Lntv News.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that many people are saying we need to get to the place in our economy to start investing in developing our own food in Liberia. That's the only way forward. We can import 70 metric tons of rice every month in this country. It will not help us. In fact, the more you import, the more money you spend, you send out to the international community. So I don't think it was wrong. In our farm, for example, we've already set up a measure in place. We have 3% in our farm who we are keeping there to monitor that farm and to supervise that farm until we can get that farm up and running.
He's Dr. John Flomo there speaking. Well, he also says the regulatory authority is working gradually to reclaim and reactivate all farm once operated by the Liberia Produce Marketing Corporation.
What we are trying to do is we have started reassessing all of the different facilities we have around the farm. We have started contacting the cooperatives, the agriculture cooperatives, to see from whence we come as an entity and where we go as an entity to become working with the farmers themselves. We are pushing and encouraging mechanized farming because it's going to be food sufficient. Production of fertilizers will not help us to get there sooner. So we have begun encouraging people who will come into this country will invest millions of dollars into agriculture in terms of equipment. In fact, we are talking to an investor who already has equipment in country, and we are having conversation with them to see how we can launch into helping some of these different farming work started while we keep the forest at the back of our mind. We have crafted a 5-year strategic plan that we're going to be forwarding to our board. Because some of the different things we have started engaging into include working with farmers to encourage them to continue to increase their farm sizes, and then working with international NGOs and international partners to garnish resources that will help support the work of these people to ensure that they grow the sizes of their farm.
War of words have ensued between Youth and Sports Minister Zoga Wilson and District 6 Monserrate County lawmaker Samuel Enders. And this is all over a control of the Hope Center or the Right to Play Center at the SKD Boulevard Complex ground. The Hope Center has over the years been used by agents of the Right to Play Liberia to implement projects in various communities. But staffers in charge of the center alleged that Representative Enders changed the locks to the building and took away the keys. Well, in reaction, Youth and Sports Minister D. Zoga Wilson said a 30-day ultimatum has been given to the lawmaker to relocate his district office from this space.
The center does not belong to Representative Enders. The center is a youth center under the direct supervision of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. Representative Enders spoke to my predecessor to have his office at the center temporarily. And when I took over, he came to me and requested same. And at the time I just come and I didn't see any problem with that. Well, it's been close to 9 months now since he's been there. It's like somebody asks you, say, your house, can you please give me a room to be here temporarily? I will find my place to move. And you being magnanimous and give the person an opportunity to be there. Then the next thing the person does is say, oh, I'm taking over your entire house. That's what the representatives have done. And we have 3 equal branches of government. And I will wait for 30 days. I have no signed agreement with President Enders to be at our center. He has no document to state that he should be there. It was just based on verbal communication. And the center, like I said, is a youth and sports center. It's a youth center. It's apolitical. We should not, in the first place, have an office, a political office there. So, if Representative Senna refuses to leave the center that belongs to the Ministry of Youth and Sports and the executive branch of government, are we evicting? Are we evicting?
Well, reacting to the allegation, Representative Samuel Ender says it was rather unfortunate for Minister Zoga to insinuate that he was misusing power as a lawmaker. He said the Hope Center was not built by the Youth and Sports Ministry, but rather right to play in conjunction with the community through a memorandum of understanding that selected benefits will benefit from the charity project at the center.
For a sitting minister to accuse a lawmaker of frequent misuse of power, a lawmaker must restrain himself and be disciplined enough and not to fight words. What he must do is to stay focused, and he will still focus on the right to play is accountable. Right to play is a memorandum of understanding. It was built by Right to Play. It was not built by the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The sole purpose for which it was built so that 3 communities in my district, under my jurisdiction, will have the ability for the children to play. This man had refused to report to the community that put him there, not you. He had refused to report to the lawmaker that he works under, and so I need to make a decision that he needs to be able to be accountable to the people of district number 6. The minister told me, say, you have no right. In fact, you are not a signatory. That minister was not signatory to that either. That minister was just appointed when I was elected by over 18,000 people of district number 6 to make sure their district is properly run, not to come and be talking to people as if to say they're with you. So I told him, as a minister, at this point in time, I don't want to argue with you on the phone. He said, well, I'm taking it back. I'm upset because of this. To my greatest surprise, the minister go on air. Well, he be talking. An appointed, a presidential appointed minister goes on the air and says a representative is a frequent misuse of power, abuse of power. What I could have done was to call him to Capitol Hill to explain to me how I misused my power. This is number 6, that's stupid. They made a right choice. But because I'm not here to exchange word with a appointee, I didn't bother him. What he did yesterday, he wrote a letter to my office, giving me 30-day ultimatum if I don't move from the right to place or else. So I want to see what the big old minister will do. As far as I'm concerned, at this point in time, the man who is using the right to play must account for money he used to right to play. If the minister...
Well, a peace activist, Philibert Kwekwe, is calling for the establishment of an economic and war crimes courts in Liberia. According to Mr. Kwekwe, the setting up of these courts will help solve issues that has got to do with culture of impunity in Liberia.
I feel that we've gone too far with peace building. And I feel strongly that if we initiate the war and economic crime court in Liberia, it will help take our peace from being fragile to being a sustainable peace. If we don't initiate the war and economic crime court, the peace in Liberia will always be fragile. I feel uncomfortable helping young people in school, in communities, teaching them those good behavior, and people that created the economic challenges, they are benefiting and they are still committing this problem within our various communities. What happens to corruption? Corruption is still high. What happened to injustice? Injustice is still high. Unfortunately for our population that is dominant youth, many of the young people do not understand that merging justice with justice is sustainable peace. Unfortunately, you hear some people telling you that for the sake of peace, that the war and economic crime could wait. It is unfortunate. If you really understand the basic concept of peace building, you will get to know that including the war and economic crime code in Liberia will help develop this country.
Well, meanwhile, a cross-section of Liberians have been giving their views on the establishment of War and Economic Crimes Code in Liberia. Take a look.
The issue about the War Crime Code is not necessary for now because we have so many things to do when it comes to development. We just came from election last year. We have a new government. So it won't be okay for people to pressurize this new government. I just spent less than 9 months in power. People try to pressurize this government to sign, document, or inform the UN General Assembly about the establishment of War Crime Code in Liberia. For me, if that happens, I see Liberia going back to the dark days.
The economic and war crime code issue in Liberia to come in Liberia are fully in support of the code to come in Liberia. Reason being, those that kill our people, those that deserve death, and the force that they killed them for little for nothing, for back of rent, what have you. When somebody insults you, shoot a person, predicated upon that. I want for economic and war crime to come in Liberia to serve as deterrence to those that will be able to contest for position in this country.
And if you're just joining us, this is a reminder that you're watching LNTV News Live, 30 minutes of major news events in Liberia and other parts of our global community. I'm Daniel Ankrah, anchoring this evening's presentation. Top stories we follow in. The Director General of the Liberia Agriculture Regulatory Authority says he welcomes the idea of Liberia seeking food aid from China, but also calls for sustainable actions towards local food security. War of words ensued between Youth and Sports Minister Zoga Wilson and Representative Samuel Enders over control of Right to Play Hope Center in Painesville. Peace and Civil Society activists continues their calls for the establishment of a War and Economic Crimes Court in Liberia, away from whom at least 8 people have been killed in an explosion at a munitions factory in South Africa. When we return from our break, more stories are up. Keep watching. Welcome back to LNTV News Live. Members of Civil Rights Human Rights Advocacy Platform say they are resolved to constructively engage government through advocacy to ensure that all Human Rights Committee's recommendations are implemented. The Secretary General of the group, Adama Dempster, said their engagement will include awareness, creation and lobbying to ensure survey is conducted to understand public perception on harmonized customary and statutory laws of Liberia to conform with international human rights best treaties.
There is a need to conduct a validation perception survey to understand the public perception on the need to harmonize both customary and statutory laws of Liberia to conform with international human rights treaty standard. 3. Also, civil society shall bring together all relevant stakeholders to further discuss the concluding observation, concerning the issues of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations, harmful traditional practices, persons living with disabilities, etc., to agree on the best way to implement them because of their sensitive nature. 4. The CSO shall create awareness with the public, especially those in the rural areas, on the framework to map up the implementation of the concluding observation. The CSO also recommends the Ministry of Internal Affairs, encourages the Ministry of Internal Affairs to immediately consider the abolition of lessons, permits, insurance to female zoos, or those who in the practice of female genital mutilation and all harmful traditional practices in Liberia.
The Deputy Director General for Quality Assurance at the National Commission on Higher Education, Reverend James Labla, says the institution has not accredited any new higher institution of learning since 2017. Mr. Labla stated that there are currently 38 post-secondary and tertiary institutions of learning operating in the country. He's been providing more details as to the quality of higher institutions in the country.
So since 2017, the National Commission on Higher Education has not accredited any institution. So officially on our database, on our list, we have 38 institutions ranging from associate degrees and bachelor degrees and master's degrees.
Yes, there are some institutions that may be operating that you may not have seen yet, or maybe you have take off of some of their operations, hence the closure of some of them. And I still begin on that one, then I would like Justice Promo come in to talk about the issue with the board for nursery and midwifery.
Yes, currently at the Commission on Higher Education is the acting leadership at the time, because we still await appointment from the President to appoint the Director General and Deputy Director General. But in the interim, the activities of the Commission have really been proactive, robust, and professional. So in updating the database and making it authentic, what we did was to review those institutions, and we later realized that some institutions we identified had credentials that were not provided within our policies. We identified 4 institutions that had provisional permit, which does not form part of our policy. Our policy is that which enables institutions the accreditation to have what you call temporary permit for 2 years and 5-year permit, that is after the 2 years, which is considered as permanent permit. Now we were able to get that straightened up, and those institutions that had that provisional permit, we ordered them to apply appropriately. So that.
Well, meanwhile, also appearing on the show in collaboration with the Medical Board of Nursery and Midwifery, the National Commission on Higher Education has closed 13 clinics and nurse aid institutions. The Secretary General of the Nursery and Midwifery Board, Mrs. Cecilia Flomo, has been providing some information as to why some of these institutions were closed.
The issue about aborting your professional future is very fast if you attend illegal establishment. Because our license we give you after you should have graduated from an accredited school takes you anywhere in the world. We just need to verify you. But if you do not, you are aborting your professional life, because you will not move beyond that. You will not be accepted in Liberia at the higher commissions level. You will not be accepted in Liberia in the health system, and eventually we will have to chase you, and the law will take its course, because it's law breaking, and while it's not done right, it's very unacceptable in any normal society. Realistically, our nurses are professional, our midwives are professional, they know their scope of practice, they know what it means to smart application. But if you fell in the wrong hand, maybe this person wasn't trained properly. Because in their training, ethics and professionalism are key. So I showed the illegal establishments do not have our curriculum or curriculum. So they won't cover everything a professional nurse or a professional midwife needs.
Of recent, traveling has been difficult for pedestrians, community residents, and motorists due to drainage that is around the Liberia Petroleum Refinery Company situated somewhere there around the Freeport of Monrovia. Some residents have been explaining to Lntv the hurdles they go through due to clogged drainages in around the Freeport area.
The cause of the water is mainly because the drainage are down there got clogged. Because on Friday night, the Japanese king said they want to help the crews. The holes are here. There's a drainage on the side. So when you use the crutch rod, try to drain, whenever you drain the side, the deck will go on the side. So all the crutch rod close the drainage. Why see the water is not flowing like before.
What sort of environment is causing for you guys who live in this place and do business?
It's causing a serious problem for us because there where we get our drainage. I think you can see on our tail there, but we have set up. There's no way for car to stop here and leave our gas. The
engineering plant, they say they're opening road or they're facing the road. They plant a drainage hole now. The whole drainage over there, the hole are there. They finish blocking. Now made the water sit down here. And they're trying to accuse the people that are building behind here. They say they're both digging hole, they're making water to come here. And they go on the water when it can always roll down in the community and go. But the water that here now, it can't go. Therefore, yesterday we get in the hole, we start digging it there so that we can take some old tire them from in the hole. We all that the water can go. They go up there, they saw how to do it, they found something who did it, nothing they gave us. Because it stays in the water sitting now.
The Assistant Minister for Administration at the Ministry of Posts and Telecommunications, Melvin L. Yelu, has urged Liberians to adopt entrepreneurship as a blueprint to alleviate poverty. Speaking of the first section of the Liberian International Model, United Nations, at the Monrovia Christian Fellowship Church on 9th Street in Sincor, he indicated that if Liberia or Africa adopts this sort of spirit, it will see itself on the different level by 2030. Minister Yelu further pointed out that the spirit of entrepreneurship can be found in great people like Bill Gates as he moved the world into a computerized technology.
When we look at the world today, 5 to 10 years in the future, we see a different picture of the background and which skills to sustain. Developing the entrepreneurial skills does not limit itself to producing what you consume, but it creates economic growth, jobs, and reduces poverty. The ability to seize opportunity, to adapt and pick up new skills, to contribute to economic for our economy will be of vital importance. The world really changes in the past decades, where things that were seen impossible are not possible due to what I call the entrepreneurial spirit. This spirit has given birth to a new millennium in which we can see millions of people come out of poverty, and I believe by adopting this spirit, Liberia and Africa can see itself on the different level by 2010.
Well, our final development for tonight, Bashal University College over the weekend concluded an intensive teacher training workshop for hundreds of teachers from Monserrado and other parts of the country. At the close of the workshop, the international education consultant at Bashal University College, Dr. Gosan Matale, spoke with Lntv about the training.
Basically, this event showcased exactly what Bashir University is about to do for this nation. Our intention is to make sure that our professors and teachers within this environment can continue to grow. We look forward to doing more of these kinds of workshops so that we can move our people from a state of desperation to a state of inspiration.
We understand teachers were drawn from all over Monrovia, not just Bashir University.
Yes, we brought a vast amount of people from all over the surrounding areas, even as far as Firestone, Doazone, and those kind of areas. Because our intention is to make sure when you grow the teaching capacity of our people, then they can go back and impact our people properly. But we're excited about the division and where we're going for the nation, and we look forward to doing more. And like I said many times on the radio about Bashir University, it's a new kind of way that we want to do things. We're moving people to do different things, new ways to learn, new ways to teach. And we have experts and people with impeccable resumes that the records can show PhDs. We have many PhDs, we have masters, and we want to make sure that when you talk about Bashir University, that you know we are a wealth of information and a wealth of intellectualism.
Well, in our foreign news now for tonight, at least 8 people have been killed in an explosion at a munitions factory in South Africa. A spokesman for the Fire and Rescue Mission said the incident happened in the Somerset West district near Cape Town during the afternoon. The cause of the blast is not yet known, but an eyewitness reported seeing a huge fireball from 5 kilometers or about 3 miles away. Firefighters are continuing to search for others believed to be trapped. Well, television viewers, that's how we come to the end of tonight's presentation. But before we leave you, a recap of our top stories. The Director General of the Liberia Agriculture Commodity Regulatory Authority says he welcomes the idea of Liberia seeking food aid from China, but calls for sustainable actions towards food security in Liberia. War of words ensued between Youth and Sports Minister and District 6 Monserrado County lawmaker over the control of a right-to-play center in Pennsville. Peace and civil society activists continues calls for the establishment of a war and economic crimes court in the country. Away from Liberia, at least 8 people have been killed in an explosion at a munition factory in South Africa. Thanks for watching. Do join us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock or later on at 8 p.m. for another newscast. Until then, I've been your anchor for tonight, Daniel Ankrah. Have a great evening. Good night.